Hello, good evening, London. Buenos días, Mexico. My name is Ana Elena González, and I am the director of the Center for Mexican Studies of the National Autonomous University of Mexico in the United Kingdom. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today on the International Women's Day, a very special occasion in which we celebrate women, but we also try to create more awareness about how the conditions in which women around the world live and how they can be improved. Our speaker today is Daniela Montserrat Romero Moreno. She is a student of law at UNAM, and she was the winner of a very special scholarship by which she was able to spend some time in the United Kingdom at King's College London doing research about the topic of Latin American migrant women in the United Kingdom. If there are any students here, I strongly advise you to check the website of the DGECI, DGECI, and in order to find out about this type of scholarship. And the result of Daniela's research is what she is going to present to us today. We're very pleased to have all of you here with us today. And Daniela, it's over to you. We are missing you because she was a very friendly companion here in our offices. And now we are over with you in Mexico, and we're looking forward to listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. As Dr. Gonzalez said, today is a very, very important day. Today is 8th of March, International Women's Day. Today,
sorry, Danny, can you speak a little louder, please?
Yeah,
just
for
a little,
sure.
Yeah? Uh-huh.
Yep. Actually, I'm going to share my screen right now so everyone can see what I'm going to share. Okay, so you can let me know if there's anything wrong or if something is not working properly.
It's okay, just the volume is a little low. So
yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Speak up a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, today is a very, very important and special day. The day is 8th of March, International Women's Day. Women's Day is it's a day dedicated to recognize and remember the effort that women have made throughout the years. So we as women today can exercise and enjoy our rights. That women made an effort so I can be here speaking to you, so I can produce knowledge and you can receive that from that. And it's really, really important to remind that this has been like a whole fight and like a whole process from women to reivindicate the rights to achieve what we have today as a gender, as a community, as a group of population. Also today, we are remembering and celebrating as well, not the fact that we are women, but the fact that a lot of women made efforts and made fights so we can have economical, social, and political achievements today as a gender. As part of this, today, we're going to talk about a very complex and sensitive topic that is gender-based violence. Gender-based violence has been affecting women all around the world, not only in Latin America, where I come from, but also in Europe and any other parts of the world. Unfortunately, this has been so present, so systematic, and affecting thousands of lives. That's why me and in companion in partnership with the Center for Mexican Studies and the United Kingdom, we've been working in this project to visualize the violence women are suffering in the United Kingdom as migrants, because we have to remember, and we're gonna get into this as soon as we get ahead in the conversation or in the conference, but process of getting our rights respect at the United Kingdom and around the world. That's why we're going to talk about today about gender-based violence. First of all, we're going to start taking note what is to what is migration? When we think about migration, we can recall the process that has been with humans for so long. It's a very ancient phenomenon. We can think about the very beginnings of human history. We can think about first human beings moving from one part to another in order to find very conditions. First of all, where weather conditions or climate conditions, so they can harvest and start a life there to survive. If we think about right now about migration phenomenon, we also can relate the past with the future and of course the present, because when women and migrants in general, not only women, move to another place, they're looking for better conditions. They're looking to improve their quality of life. So basically it's kind of similar, obviously not the same, but we can recall that experience. Also, to start conceptualizing the term migration, we have to make clear or to share that there are four main elements that complete this whole concept of migration. We can think first at a personal element. A personal element is the person or group of people that decide to move from one place to another. Then we have a second element, which is the action of coming out of the place of origin to a other place. That could be, as we're gonna talk in a few minutes, could be inside of the same country, same territory, different places of the same territory, or just one country, or two different territories of two different countries. Then we have a fourth element that it's kind of complex to get into it. Today, we're not gonna touch that topic like deeply, but we're going to mention that there are multiplicity of reasons to move. It could be social reasons, economic reasons, study reasons. There are thousands of reasons to go to another place to have to establish yourself or your family, the persons you travel with, in another state. So we can, with that being said, we can conceptualize migration as a social phenomenon occurring when a person or group of people move from one place to another. That could be in the territory of just one country or from one country to another, temporarily or permanently. That was something I was missing when I was mentioning the elements, temporal or permanent element, which is temporary element. Sometimes there are migrant that go to another place just to stay there for a few weeks, a few months, for a determined amount of time. And there's other kind of migration, which is permanent, which is a migration, a process that starts with the main goal of permanence and stay at the place of where we are heading, the receiving state, sorry. With that being said, we're going to move forward to another concepts that are very, very important for us today. We're going to move to migration and women. Migration and women. We can think at first that there's no much relationship with it. We think as migrant as a group of people, human beings in general, but we need to talk about two concepts that are related. We're not going to get deeply into them, but we're going to touch them today because they're related to migration. We're going to talk about immigration and immigration. Immigration, when we say immigration, we're referring to the process of migration, but we're focusing on the point of view of the origin country, the country that is being left. And when we talk about immigration, we are talking about the whole process of migration, but from the point of view of the receiving country or the receiving state. There are multiple types and different modalities of migration. Today, we're gonna just talk a little bit about two types of migration that are really relevant to us, that are regular migration and irregular migration. Usually, people, academics and professionals talk about these types of migration like illegal and legal migration. Today, we're not going to talk about these types of migration like that, because we think that using the adjective legal or illegal does criminalize and discriminates people, migrating people that are coming from one country to another. It's not a crime to move to another country. That's why we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna name it regular migration and irregular migration. Regular migration refers to the process of a person that has permission to stay legally at a country that fulfills the requirements that country is asking for in order to let that person come into their territory. When we are talking about regular migration, we are referring that a person arrives to the destination country and has no permission. It's not allowed to legally enter into the territory of this receiving country, did not fulfill the requirements and has no permission to stay at this place. Then we're going to talk about any other concept that is fundamental in this problem, which is feminization of migration. I don't know if some of you have heard about this term, but it's really relevant when it comes in terms to ours. Migration process has been suffering a change. In the past, I'm talking last century, men were the main subjects in the process of migration. The majority of the international migrants were men. From the beginnings of this new century to nowadays, we can talk about an increase in the presence of women in this whole process of migration. Women are increasing their presence in this whole process. We can think back then at the middle of last century, women were struggling and fighting with this role that was assigned to us as a society, that we had to stay at home, we had to stay at our origin places, taking care of our houses and taking care of our business at our national countries. Meanwhile, men went to other countries to look for better conditions. We're talking just one part of migration, but definitely this is a part of it. And coming from that place to here, now women are changing their role and reformulating the role that we are playing in the society. And as part of it, women get more independent. And that's why we've been moving to another better economic situation, better studies, and to get more in touch with this. According to this, well, we can talk about feminization of migration as an increase in presence of women into the migration phenomenon. According to the International Organization for Migration, which is an organization coming from the United Nations, in their latest report that was 2022, they say that until 2020, they were 281 million international migrants. That's the amount of international migrants coming from their origin countries to a different country for different reasons and for different timelines. Moving forward, we can say that that amount, 281 million international migrants, equals 33.6, of the global population. That's a huge thing. From that 281 million, 48% are women. We're talking about generally in the whole world's immigrant population, we're talking about that from this amount, 48% are women. It's not the half of it, it's almost the half of it, but it shows us the presence of women in this phenomenon of migration, how this has been evolving. Moving forward, this latest report that the International Organization for Migration has shown or has shared with us says that the average age of these women moving from one country to another, participating in this whole phenomenon of migration, are approximately from 24 to 30 years. That's a really young part of the population. That's the average age of this all women participating in this migration processes. Moving forward and staying in touch with the migrant women in United Kingdom, we're going to get more locally. The same report, same organization, International Organization for Migration from the United Nations, in their latest report, said that until 2020, which is the latest record we have, United Kingdom has a total of 9.4 million international migrants. From that amount of 9.4 million, 10,457 are Mexicans. We don't have the exact amount of people, of women in this Mexican status, but we know that percentage is a 13.8% of its population. What it means that the whole population of the United Kingdom is 67.9 million people living there in the United Kingdom. And from that, From that amount, 13.8% are international migrants. United Nations pointed out that 52.5% of the immigrant population in the United Kingdom are women, meaning that 4.9 million of women are currently staying at the United Kingdom as coming from other countries. Getting locally and regionally at Latin America, we can talk about countries where people migrate the most to the United Kingdom. We're going to talk about the five most countries that have more people going to the United Kingdom. These are countries from Latin America and also for the Caribbean. We have a first place, Jamaica, with 100,000 international migrants, Brazil, 47,000, Trinidad and Tobago, 31,000, Guyana, 30,000, and we can finish with Colombia, which is 26,000 people in the United Kingdom. As a personal experience, I can share the United Kingdom, specifically London. It's a city that is very open to migrant. You can find migrant people all around London, and it's like a very friendly city. But something that we should keep in mind is that not because my experience is well, not because my privilege allows me to have a good experience as a migrant people, as a migrant woman, means that every single woman has the same experience. That's why we're going to jump into the next topic. Going to this and linking one topic to another, we're going to talk about intersectionality and stratification. When we talk about intersectionality, we need to realize that every reality is not everyone's reality. We need to realize that there are women different like me that have more vulnerabilities due to some factors or some elements that are present in their lives, such as gender and race. There's been a problem with feminism and knowledge and all of these ways to think when we come to talk about the feminism that is representing all women. When we talk about feminism, which is like a huge complex topic that we're going to get deep into this conversation, but we have to mention is that we need to realize that there are some narratives that we keep making and that we keep replying that are invisibilizing and isolating some of the realities of other women. For example, it's not the same to talk about, for example, a case of someone that has the privilege to be able to study and go to another country, know how to speak English. It's not the same situation of someone that goes to the same country, but with total different environment that maybe does not know how to speak English, or maybe does not know about the migration policies or the migration laws in the United Kingdom. So we gotta be very, very sensitive and very aware that intersectionality is a key term when it comes to gender studies, and also to produce knowledge. That's why we say right here that it's realizing that every reality is different, and also their vulnerabilities. Recognize that gender and race make women vulnerable, not also race and gender, but also some other factors, some other elements that we are not mentioning right now. For example, level of study, if they know how to speak another language, their migratory status, and any other so on. That's why taking account intersectionality, it's necessary to make knowledge with intersectional perspective. There's been a discussion that the knowledge we have
Danny, we lost you.
Also,
You're back. You're back.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me there?
Yes, we can hear you back. You're back.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much. As I was saying, it is really elemental and it's really necessary.
We've lost her again. Danny, we lost you.
Sorry for that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my my screen again.
Mm-hmm.
So we can keep going. 1 second. Can you let me know if you see it?
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. As I was saying, and repeating right now, just to summarize, we need to take this intersectional perspective in order to produce new knowledge and to propose a solution to gender problems. Also, stratification is a social sociologist concept that we are using and borrowing from that science to this study, because we need to be conscious that migrant women are stratified. That means that as part of this migrant population, they have different resources and different opportunities than any other male migrants. Migrant women are very stratified, very isolated, and they don't have resources, or not all of them, available. So just to summarize, stratification means social inequities and differences that produce unequal designation and access to material and symbolical resources, which means that they don't have the same opportunities, they don't have the same resources as the other parts of the population. Moving forward into the topic that is that we're talking today, we're gonna talk about violence against women and girls, gender-based violence. Today, as I mentioned before, and as we all know, is Women's International Day. And this is a very, very complex and sensitive topic we're going to get into, but it's necessary for us to talk about it, to visualize, and to let the people suffering from this to speak up, and to share the experiences, and share that are a few resources and tools to come out of these violent situations. Getting into this, and with that being said, violence against women is conceptualized in the Declaration of Elimination on the elimination of violence against women from the United Nations, and it's conceptualized as any act of gender-based violence that results in, or is likely to result in, physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation or liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. Moving forward, this is contained in the article number 1 of this declaration. If anyone wants to get into this and know more about it, it also says on the second article that it could be physical, sexual, and psychological violence occurring in the family, including battering, sexual abuse of female children in the household, dowry-related violence, marital rape, female genital mutilation, and other traditional practices harmful to women, non-sponsored violence, and violence related to exploitation. Basically, this means that it's not only the violence that we're suffering in our private environments or in our houses, but it's also the violence that it's facing women on the streets, at their jobs, at any places that are public or private. Moving forward, it also says that it could be physical, sexual, and psychological violence occurring within the general community, including rape, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and intimidation at work, in educational institutions, and elsewhere, trafficking in women, and forced prostitution. In this point, it is very important to recall and remain that migrant women suffer very, very often of trafficking and prostitution due to their vulnerabilities that we were talking about before, and also the certification of this same process of migration. Women are very vulnerable to be prey of these crimes that are trafficking and forced prostitution. This is a problem that has been staying on the table for a long time, but the lack of policies and regulation of migration, and also focus on a gender perspective, it's making the difference into this problem, and it's aggravating, and it's also making it worse because they don't have enough regulation and enough policies to help women stay safe in the process of migrating. Then moving forward, it says that physical, sexual, and psychological violence perpetrated or condoned by the state, whether it also is violence against women. With that being said, moving forward, factors that increase the vulnerability of migrant women, Latin American women in this case. After doing some research and after getting in touch with the victims and also the volunteers, because we request volunteers for this, out a few factors that are making more vulnerable to women, Latin American women, to suffer gender-based violence at the United Kingdom specifically. First of all of them is language barriers. The fact of not knowing English, in this case for the United Kingdom, it's something that it makes more vulnerable to women staying in the United Kingdom. Because sometimes it happens that it usually happens in domestic violence, that, for example, a Mexican woman, in this case, goes to the United Kingdom to get married with a British guy. And for some reason, this British guy realizes that he doesn't want to get married anymore and left the women to its own. This woman does know how to speak English. Sometimes the barriers of language difficult the process of communicating the violence we're suffering as women in a different country of ours. It is difficult to put into words, if it's difficult to put into words for us while we are suffering in our own languages, it is even more difficult for women, for migrant women, international migrant women, to put into words to the authorities or any other figure what we're suffering or what they're suffering. And that's why language barriers are one of the factors that are making these women more vulnerable to suffer gender-based violence. Moving forward, irregular immigration status. The irregular immigration status, as we said before, is not a crime. And as that, we know that some of the perpetrators or the aggressors use the irregular immigration status of these women to threaten them to deport them, or to report them with the police so they can deport them to their origin countries. That's a problem that has been occurring in many cases, unfortunately, and that's been haunting women for a long time. Then losing the status they have in their place of origin. I had the opportunity to talk to a really, really wonderful professional, which is Dr. Lagunes. She's a psychiatrist at the United Kingdom, and she's been working with Latin American women that are suffering gender-based violence. And talking to her, she was explaining me this point. Women, when they move, every person in the reality, when they move to another country, they are losing the status they had in the previous origin country. In my country, to put this into easy words, into easy terms, at my country, maybe I'm a lawyer, or maybe I am a teacher, or maybe I have certain level or status at my country. When I move to another country where those titles or those studies or everything I had is not valid, you are losing, you are grieving, you're getting into a dual process. You are losing what you had and you're feeling vulnerable. And that increases the sense of isolation in Latin American women, which is unfortunately sometimes taken advantage of by the perpetrators or the violent aggressors. Then we have not having a support system, which, talking again with Dr. Lagunes, she was telling me that having a support system surrounding you and helping you to come out of this violence is elemental to have a good result and to be able to come out of this cycle of violence. That's why we put this here, because if a person does not feel supported and does not feel, supported, it's harder for them to speak up and to do something to start getting out of this violent situation. That's why having a support system, it's one of the keys or one of the factors that are increasing vulnerabilities into Latin American women's community. Also, not having economic resources, which is basically not having money. When you go to the United Kingdom as an irregular person, of course, you are not allowed to have a job. Legally, you're not allowed to have a job, and legal jobs are not going to hire you. Maybe they're going to hire you at some informal jobs, but this is, if it's not the case, you're not going to be allowed to have an income. And this is what aggressors and perpetrators get advantage of, because they threaten economically their couples or the person they're vulnerating. So that's the one of the factors that are making women more vulnerable. Last but not least, not knowing where to seek for help, even though maybe you know how to speak English, or the language of the country you're going to. Sometimes it's difficult to know where to go, where to seek for help. And that's basically the main purpose of this conference, to share their resources and the tools that Latin American women have in order to help themselves to come out of these violent situations they're living in, because it's really hard to do it by their own. Sometimes it's even impossible. And that's why we're going to get into more in detail about the resources that we have found so they can know what to do or where to go. Then we're gonna talk about a very important part of this project, which was getting in contact with victims and volunteers that were very kind and very brave to share the experiences and their testimonies, so we can get to know and visualize and analyze the violence they're suffering. In this case, we are going to present today 2 cases of Mexican women that reach us and were really, really kind to share the experiences, so we can share it with you today and make awareness about this topic. First one is Sophia. Sophia is a 26-year-old Mexican woman that was living at Bristol, United Kingdom for 2 years by now. Came into the United Kingdom looking for a very quality of life, looking to finish their her master, sorry. She was starting in Mexico. She was coming here to follow with her academic career. She does speak English and she is single, have no kids. What she was telling me when I was talking to her, because I had the opportunity and the pleasure to talk to this girl, she was telling me that at first she didn't even know if she was experimenting gender-based violence. That's the point of where we want to go, that if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know what gender violence is, if you don't know the rights you have, you are not able to get out of the situation. And that's what she was telling me. She was like, I don't know if what I'm experimenting or what I'm living is gender-based violence. I'm going to let that to you so you can decide. And I talked to her and I let her know that what she was experimenting was indeed gender-based violence. She was telling me that the experience she was having is that at her job, she's working now, at her job, her boss is not treating her the way he is treating male coworkers. In this case, she was saying that she was suffering gender-based violence because her boss is always trying to get her activities that don't allow her to get more knowledge or experience at her job. She says that her boss is giving the good activities to the male coworkers and not to her or her coworkers, her female coworkers. She says also that this boss always demands more from women than from men, and that when they are trying to speak up and raise their voices and let him know that what he's doing is affecting them, he's just ignoring them and diminishing their demands. Sophia also said that share with us the experiences, the emotional experiences she had during this whole process that she's still living. She said she referred to suffering emotionally very much. She claimed experimenting anger, desperation, sadness, frustration, and fear. She's been supported by her family and received professional psychological help from a therapist in Mexico. But she said that here in the United Kingdom, she didn't know where to go to look for help. She didn't know where or how to ask for help, even though she had a regular migratory status and that she was a professional and that she knew how to speak English. That's what I was trying to explain at the beginning of this conversation. We need to realize that not every single case is the same, and not every single reality is everyone's reality when it comes in terms to gender problems. Also, after working on this with her therapist, she's also feeling bad today emotionally. She's still afraid to walk and being alone. And she's also very sad because she knows that there are a lot of women at the United Kingdom and at any other countries suffering for the same problem. As I mentioned before, she referred that she didn't know where to go to seek for help or where to go to get advice or to get supported. Then we have the second testimony of the second volunteer that reached out to us. Her name is Maite. Maite is a 43-year-old Mexican woman that has been living in Cheshire, United Kingdom for the last 17 years. Now she has a regular immigration status and claims that she came to the United Kingdom to keep up with her studies. She's currently not living with the person she is still married to, but they're not legally divorced. And also when I had the opportunity to talk to her about this issue was that she came to the United Kingdom to study English, to get better opportunities, and she met a guy. This guy was really kind, really helpful at the beginning of the relationship, and then they fell in love. They eventually got married and have kids. She refers that after they got married and they got kids, he became really violent and really aggressive to her. She says that he changed his behavior and started treating her as in a very rude and kind way. He also did not provide any economical resources to her. She's ill. She needs medicine, and she needs a lot of resources that he was not providing to her, not because he had to provide her, but that was the agreement they did at the beginning of their relationship. She was taking care of the children at home, and he was going to go out and work and provide her with the things she needed. That's why she was complaining about the fact that he was not providing any kind of economical resources to her. That's where she decided to go and look for a job. She already got it, and that's where another part of violence began. That she said, that she refers, is that after looking for a job, she started earning money and started getting her life moving forward. And this guy was very, very obsessed with the control. He was controlling her at every single aspect of her life, who she spoke with, the person she was hanging out with. Also, she told me, she refers that he was controlling the way she was spending the money she earned at her job. He was literally controlling her where to buy, how to buy, and what to buy. She was very desperate, and she was suffering a lot in that relationship. Also, speaking in terms of emotions and psychological effects, she refers that she felt so desperate, isolated, and hopeless that she even considered the idea of taking her own life, stopping her life, taking her own life to stop the feeling that she was experiencing at that time with the gender-based abusive context that she was living in. That happened for 10 months, as she refers, until one day she remembers this very clear, that this guy came into the house very drunk, very aggressive, and trying to hit her. That's where she called the police and stated her first report to the Metropolitan Police of the United Kingdom. After that, police talked to her and let her know where to go. They let her know where the organizations or the resources she had in order to come out of this violent situation. But also, it is true that the report that she did not make any changes, because the perpetrator had no consequences at all. He did not receive any punishment for it. With that being said, after all of this process, because we have to be conscious that every process is different and not every single woman is going to come out of this environmental violence at the same time, one day she stood up and looked for help from one of the organizations that we're going to talk about today, that is LARS, Latin Americans Women Rights Services. We're going to get deep into it further, but just to introduce that topic, LARS is an organization, nonprofit organization, to help Latin American migrant women that are suffering gender-based violence in the United Kingdom. She reached out for help to them, and as well from the Mexican Embassy. She received psychological help for the national health system at the United Kingdom. We need to remember that she has a regular immigration status, so they can access to public funds of the United Kingdom. Just to make it clear a little bit, they have really strong immigrant policies, and one of them is that a person that has no regular immigration status with permission to stay at the city as a resident or something like that it's not allowed to access to public funds. There's a policy of not access to public funds. And that's what happened at the beginning with a lot of these girls that they had no access to these resources. And then when they literally regularize their status, they could access to these funds. That's what she did. She went to the National Health System. They provide her with help and support, and she started the process of getting out of this situation. Now we're going to get into the last part of this conversation, which are the tools and resources that women have to improve their situation. We got to remember that it's not their responsibility to be where they are. It's not their responsibility to solve the problem, but we got to know that there are a few tools and resources that are going to help them to come out of these violent situations. Moving into them, we're going to talk about nonprofit organizations. There are a few nonprofit organizations working with women in the United Kingdom that are suffering gender-based violence. But specifically, we had the opportunity and the pleasure to talk directly with Latin American Women's Rights Services, which in my opinion is the biggest nonprofit organization that helps Latin American women at this country. Talking to them, they told me that Latin American Women's Rights Service was created in 1983 to offer special, confidential, and free services to Latin American women, giving counseling and advice to end violence against women and girls. It was necessary, as she was telling me. I was talking to the manager of public relationships of LARS, and she was very kind to explain me that before 1980, in the last century, there was no organizations mainstream for Latin American women, or for Latin American persons at all. So that's where realized that there were problems and there were needs that need to be fulfilled. That's where they created and founded Latin American Women's Rights Services, founded as a response to the lack of nonprofit organizations that help Latin American women and to provide the needed services that were missing. They provide, talking to them about who they are aiming their projects to, they were telling me that the public or the target they were figuring out, it was Latin American women at the United Kingdom. Talking about that, they told me that they're only taking care of Latin American women, not only in London, in the United Kingdom, but mainly in London where their offices are. They work with 3 different areas of this whole institution. That are first one, services, which is focused directly to get in touch with the public or the victims in this case. The services are focusing to the provision of generalized advice, psychotherapy, housing, not only shelter, because we can get confused in this situation. Not only shelter, they're not looking just to give you a place to stay, but also to help you with your land situation. With I don't know if you have problems with your landlord, or if you are struggling to get your rent or something like that. Well, they're going to help you to regularize and to standardize the situation with your land. That's what they do. Like evictions, for example. Also, welfare, employment rights, domestic violence or violence against women and girls, counseling, immigration advice, even they're offering courses to help women to learn English so they can improve their quality of life. And also they offer this service that is called crèche to take care of children, which is literally taking care of children of these women so they can go to work or they can do activities improving their quality of life. The second main area that LARS has is social change. Focus on activities like campaigns, policy making, combating labor's exploitation, activism, forums, and more. This part is mainly focused in raise awareness about what's happening with this phenomenon occurring to Latin. Moving to the third area they're working at, this is development training. In this area of the organization, they provide education and training to the authorities, unions, and professionals to raise awareness and to raise intersectional discrimination. Lars also talking to this person told me that Lars does an advocacy job. That means they do pay attention to the victims, but also they connect the victims to the organization or the professionals that are going to provide the help and the resources to them. They connect. That's the job they mainly do, but also have different areas where they put all of the services available for all of these women. They also have partnerships, that's the way they work, with professionals like lawyers, psychologists, immigration professionals and specialists to help these women get better conditions on their lives. The main objective for them is to offer and find an holistic and integral solution for every single case. They do this kind of assessment when a person goes to Lars. They do this assessment test to determine the risk they're suffering and also to determine and identify the actions that were needed in order to help this person to come out of this violent situation. Here's contact information for Lars. If anyone wants to screen the screen right now, you can do it, but also if you don't want to, you can contact me at the end of the session, or I'm going to provide a email so you can make me questions or to keep this conversation if you're willing to, and there you go, the contact information of Lars in case you want to reach out. Then we have this other nonprofit organization, which is Latin American Women's Aid. This is also a nonprofit organization focusing on Latin American women suffering gender-based violence. Their main objective is to help Latin American women and children affected by gender-based violence in the United Kingdom. They help also with housing, not only to seek for shelter, but also to regularize and standardize the land problems. Counseling and advice to face gender-based violence and to let women know what to do and how to face this violence they're suffering. Also, they provide help to the women taking care of their children. In the meantime, they're working or moving forward into this process of getting out of gender-based violence situation. They also offer programs to learn English, as Lars did, and also offer psychological therapy, and they are very, very focused in policy making just to improve the situation of Latin American migrant women in the United Kingdom. Also, here's the contact information for them. You can screenshot or at the end with, gladly, I'm gonna share that with you again. Then we have Solways. Solways is another nonprofit organization that is focused on women, not basically into Latin American women, but women in general that are the United Kingdom looking for help. They provide shelter for those who have no place to go, legal counseling and advice to those who reach out for legal counseling. Also have programs, but this is very, very interesting of Soleil's, that they have programs to work with the perpetrator, the aggressor, in order to help him change. Of course, when the perpetrator, the aggressor is willing to, but it's really inspiring the way they are looking at this problem, the way they're trying to solve it, the way they're thinking even into the aggressor or the perpetrator, and they're giving an opportunity for him to change. Because we know that the problem, even though we help women, and they provide shelter and counseling and all of this is still there. There's a problem that needs to be solved, and in order to solve this complex, really, really complex problems of gender-based violence, we need to work step by step and with all of the elements involved in it. They have a holistic vision and mission looking for integral support to victims, which means give personal and needed help to the Latin American women that reach out to them. They also have a crisis line for victims of sexual violence, which is very important. They have 4 ways to contact them. The first one is Soleil's advice line, which is available here. You can screenshot or you can ask later for this information. They also have Soleil's rape crisis helpline in cases of rape. Soleil's rape crisis helpline again with a different email, and also a 24 national domestic violence helpline that it's available for all the United Kingdom. Moving forward to the next institution or the next organization, we have Soul Black Sisters Project. This is also a nonprofit organization that works with basically Black women, but also helps women in the United Kingdom to come out of this violent situations. And the mission is to provide and spread knowledge about the situation so women can know what to do and where to go to seek for help and came out of these violent situations. They refer victims to the proper organizations to work with them, offer counseling and legal advice, promote information for migrant women rights so they can be aware of what they are entitled for. That's very important. And what they can demand and demand to protect and fulfill their rights. They also are very, very focused on creating campaigns to spread the word about what's been occurring and what are the resources they have. Moving forward to other institutions or other resources, we have the public ones. Here we're focusing on the embassies and the consular sections of Latin American countries. Just to get in touch with this, embassies are a permanent representation of country's government at a foreign country with a different government. They're like an extension of the government of one country into other territory of a different country to represent and to look for the citizens of their origin country. Consular section is part of the embassy as well. Sometimes the consular section, it's per se consular section or a consular somewhere else. They are physically separated or sometimes in the same place, but they're definitely linked because consular section, is part of the embassy. Depends on the embassy. It has different functions that involve getting in touch with citizens of its country, offering help in multiple areas like administrative and civil procedures, such as passport issues. Consular section gets in touch with citizens, gets in touch with the nationals of their country. That's where for example, Mexicans can get in touch with their government at a foreign country. We also had the opportunity to talk to the Mexican embassy. That's a really, really interesting topic because talking to them, I had the opportunity to talk to one of the representatives, and here's the information we have. First of all, we need to remind that the mission of the embassy is to represent Mexico in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, in other international bodies in accordance with the statutes given by the Mexican government, promoting good relationships between both countries, in this case, the United Kingdom and Mexico, to safeguard the human rights of Mexicans living in the United Kingdom. Also, their purpose is to extend and strengthen Mexico's foreign policy with the government of the United Kingdom through actions in different political, economic, social, and cultural issues. Consular section, and their main purpose is to take and promote actions to guarantee the rights of Mexican citizens at the United Kingdom in this case. Consular section takes care of the need of Mexican community, this foreign country, and to protect them. We need to talk about the things that the consular section and the embassy do, because it's not what people commonly think, that they can provide you help, like give you money or give you assistance or speak on your behalf to the foreign country. It's not the way it works. It works differently, but it also very, very helpful. And we're going to get into deeply into this.
in a few seconds. As I told you before, I had the opportunity to interview the head of protection of the consular section, which is Aida Gutierrez, extraordinary woman that was really, really kind to share this information to us. According to what she said, Mexican embassy is completely aware of this type of violence that has been affecting migrant Mexican women in the United Kingdom. So the consular section offers protection and help to Mexican community in the United Kingdom that are suffering gender-based violence. They always act with gender perspective, which is part of we were discussing at this very beginning of this conference, that we need to be conscious about gender issues and how to get into them. According to the report given by the victim, because just to get this into context, when Mexican person that is suffering gender-based violence reach out to the embassy, they do an assessment test, again, like the nonprofit organizations, to determine what's the problem they're suffering and what are the ways they can help them. According to the results of this report they're having for this victim, they could suggest different actions, like, for example, help the victim to report the situation to the police, guidance to apply for welfare and benefits, legal counseling related to family and migratory issues, get economic support, as I said before, not directly from them, but they get you in touch with some organization that can provide you loans or any economical help. Refer the victim to mental health department as well to get the proper psychological attention they need. Refer the victim to shelters and organizations focusing on victims of gender-based violence. As we said before, the embassy is very committed with Mexican community to promote the services they offer and offer help they could get. So they are very committed and they're very focused on social media, how to spread the word and raise awareness in the Mexican community in the United Kingdom, but also into the Mexican community at Mexico and all over parts of the world. There are cases where Mexican or any Latin American women go to the police and report some incident of violence they're suffering. And what happens here is that sometimes British authorities, they are not fully trained and aware of what's happening with this structural problem that is happening to Latin American women and especially migrant women. Some cases, some of their rights can be violated by police or any authorities. In these cases, Mexican people, in this case, women, can go to the embassy and to the consular section to report that they have suffered some kind of violation of their rights from the British authorities, and the consular section and the embassy are going to help you to report what's been going on with the British authority and to make a protest not to complain about the treatment they were given to you. That's what basically she said, that when this type of case happens, they refer the victim to a specialized lawyer to take care of the situation, and also broadcast notes protesting for the abuse and send that to the Ministry of External Relationships of their receiving country, in this case, the United Kingdom. According to them, the type of gender-based violence that women report the most is psychological violence. She also told us that during the pandemic that we faced a few years ago, they never stopped. Even though they were closed, they were attending this hotline 24/7, so the Mexican citizens can report the issues they have. Just to conclude, Mexican Embassy works with the police, British authorities, and legal professionals in different civil organizations to offer guidance, help, and protection at the right time. This is the contact of the Mexican Embassy in the United Kingdom as well. You can look for it on internet, screenshot this screen, or I can share that with you at the end of this conference. Professional, this is the very last part of this whole conference. And it's mainly focused on how professionals provide services to Latin American women so they can came out of this violent situation environments they are suffering right now. as I mentioned previously, I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Lagunes. She's an extraordinary psychiatrist, very compromised women, helping other women. She's been working with Latin American migrant women, and also had a partnership before with LARS, Latin American Women's Rights Services, the nonprofit organization we were talking previously. She emphasizes that migration process per se is a difficult process that increases the risk of suffering mental health problems because of the cultural change, not having support, language barriers, and other issues. Women suffering gender-based violence or living in these violent environments suffer very much from their emotions. And one of these parts is that women face depression, anxiety, drug abuse, even a psychiatric crisis after living an episode of gender-based violence. Generally, there's a presence of psychological damage before physical violence. It's what she was explaining to me, that basically a relationship of violence or a context of violence starts with verbal or psychological damage, saying bad words, or like it says in this presentation, and she shared to us, passive aggressive comments. That's where it begins. That's where you or the person that's suffering gender-based violence can realize that this is not working the way it should work, and this is affecting me in a way that it's not endurable anymore. She suggests to pay attention to passive aggressive comments, usually at the beginning of the relationships. Just 1 second, please. Sorry for the interruption. Jumping into the conclusions of this whole conference that we're having today, we can say that women are more present in immigration phenomenon than they were previously in past few years. 1 second, let me see if I show you. No, this is not. 1 second.
Don't worry too much, Danny. You can just make some concluding remarks.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. Just as I was saying, after talking with Dr. Laguna, she was telling me about this whole process of grieving, losing the status you had when you're moving from your country to the new country you're moving into. And she was also telling me that it is really important to have a support system in order to come out of this violent situations. Those are the main conclusions, as well as that knowing what to do and where to go to seek for help is really important in these cases to come out of this violent environments they're living, as well as that this the main purpose of this conference and also of this whole project was to spread the word and raise awareness about this problem, and not also about the problem, visibilizing the problem, but also to offer solutions and options and resources, more than solutions, resources to women that are facing these problems, so they can know where to go and what to do, how to do it. Also, it is not only focused on Latin American women in the United Kingdom, which we know are the main victims here, but also it is this whole project and is this whole conference is also targeting people, women at Mexico that are planning to move to the United Kingdom, or also Latin American women of all the Latin American countries, thinking maybe about moving into the United Kingdom or into any other countries, to know that they have rights, even though they think they don't, or they feel that they don't have where to go. There are resources, there are tools that you have to improve your situation, to come out of this violent environment you're living in. And that's basically it, the end of the main point of this whole project.
Excellent. Many thanks, Dani, for sharing all of this with you. And right now, well, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude to you for presenting this research for us, but also to all the people who agreed to contribute something to your research, to all the NGOs, the professionals dedicated to safeguarding mental health for women, for the Mexican Embassy and the consular section as well, and all the women who agreed to share their stories with you. I would like to express my sincere gratitude. Now is the time for the audience to make their questions. Pueden hacer las preguntas en inglés o en español. Las pueden hacer a través del chat o levantando su mano y encendiendo la cámara para hacer su pregunta o comentario. Estoy segura de que ha sido sumamente provocadora la exposición de Daniela Romero y nos daría mucho gusto escuchar sus reacciones, sus comentarios. No sé si pudieras describir cómo fue tu investigación, sobre todo con las organizaciones no gubernamentales, que son varias, ¿no? Que es el primer punto que puede sorprender, ¿no? Que el problema esté tan difundido, que existan no una, sino varias organizaciones no gubernamentales dedicadas exclusivamente a mujeres latinoamericanas, a atenderlas, además de las demás que son abarcantes de cualquier grupo humano, pero bueno, un poquito de eso, si nos puedes ampliar un poquito.
Claro que sí, con mucho gusto. Voy a proceder a hacerlo en español, si está bien con esto. Sí, en realidad fue un proceso largo, pero muy gratificante entrar en contacto con estas organizaciones. La verdad es que todas fueron muy amables, no con todas pude entrar en contacto directo, algunas no tenían incluso los recursos necesarios para poder atender pues todas estas solicitudes que les llegaban no solamente mías, sino también de otras personas que están investigando este mismo tema o que están interesadas en saber más acerca del tema. Es muy interesante también saber que a pesar de que son pues varias y que han tomado la iniciativa de crear más instituciones o organizaciones enfocadas directamente a mujeres latinoamericanas, también es muy interesante y muy preocupante saber que no se dan abasto. Es lo que me comentaba Latin American Rights Women's Service, que a pesar de que ellos están haciendo su mayor esfuerzo con los recursos que tienen, con el personal que tienen, a veces no se dan abasto para atender todos los casos que llegan, y claramente es una situación que está afectando tanto a las organizaciones como al público en general que pues no está recibiendo esta ayuda y todos estos recursos que podrían ser destinados a ellos, pero pues que por las circunstancias y por cuestiones de, pues sí, de recursos, tanto materiales como económicos como humanos, no es posible brindar a todo el mundo. Pero sí, en general, la parte de entrar en contacto no solo con las organizaciones, sino también con las instituciones públicas y privadas, fue una parte muy enriquecedora del proyecto, personalmente como investigadora y también como profesional. Al final del día, todos tienen y tenemos esta vocación de querer aportar algo a la problemática de violencia de género que está sufriendo no solamente en el Reino Unido, sino también, desgraciadamente, en todo el mundo. Las organizaciones tienen sus propias estrategias, sus propios programas y las formas de ayudar. Una cosa que me llama muchísimo la atención es que Soleis, que es una de estas organizaciones, tiene un programa específico. Dame un segundito, por favor.
No te preocupes, si tienes efectos de sonido locales, no pasa nada, nos transportamos, ¿eh?
Exactamente.
Estoy muy considerada, pero no pasa nada.
Exactamente. Como le comentaba, un programa que me llamó muchísimo la atención fue este de Soleis, que se enfoca en el agresor, se enfoca en el perpetrador de la violencia, en la persona que es en el sujeto activo de esta cuestión. Se enfocan en ellos, no solamente en las víctimas y en proveer de todos los recursos a las víctimas para poder salir de estas situaciones de violencia, sino también en atender de dónde viene el problema. Hablamos generalmente de agresor, bueno, porque la mayoría de las veces la violencia doméstica de género es lo que está afectando a las mujeres, pero por eso se habla del perpetrador. Pero en realidad, pues sí, es bastante inspirador la manera en la que están abordando esta cuestión y cómo están tratando incluso de ofrecer ayuda, bueno, pues, al agresor o al perpetrador que está dispuesto a recibirla y que está dispuesto a generar un cambio para, vamos poco a poco, minando la violencia de género y acabando con este problema, que pues claramente no se va a acabar de un día a otro, ni de la noche a la mañana, pero que sí con pasos pequeños y firmes se pueden hacer cambios a nivel social para que las mujeres podamos ir teniendo los derechos que merecemos, que sean respetados y que no sean vulnerados.
Tenemos algunas preguntas y comentarios en el chat. Sergio David Andaluz Pérez dice, buenas tardes, en su opinión, ¿cuál sería uno de los factores más determinantes que ponen en estado de vulnerabilidad a las mujeres migrantes? Gracias.
Muy buena pregunta. La verdad es que es una pregunta un poco triquiñosa. No hay per se uno solo que sea el determinante de que las mujeres latinoamericanas sufren este tipo de violencia, sino que es, como se mencionaba a mediados de la presentación, es un conjunto de factores, tanto externos como internos, que contribuyen a incrementar las vulnerabilidades que sufren estas mujeres. La falta de conocimiento del idioma, la falta de los recursos, la falta del conocimiento respecto de los problemas migratorios, la falta de conocimiento de los recursos que tienen a la mano o que tienen disponibles para hacer frente a este tipo de violencia, bueno, pues son de los factores que incrementan la vulnerabilidad de las personas, pero no solamente son estos factores externos, sino también hay factores, internos, también hay factores externos, como propiamente el género, la raza, el nivel de estudios, el nivel socioeconómico y muchos otros factores que pues vienen desde el país de origen, no solamente que están presentes en el país que recibe al migrante, sino también en el país del cual proviene.
Muy bien, y Adriana Sámano, congratulations to Dani Romero for this hard-hitting data concentrate. Thank you for the information. Muchas gracias, Adriana. Muy bien. No sé si hay alguna otra pregunta o comentario. Bueno, de no ser así, les agradecemos mucho su asistencia. Le agradecemos muchísimo a nuestra ponente y muchas felicidades porque con este trabajo ella obtiene su grado de licenciatura, que les reitero, es una oportunidad que tienen los estudiantes de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México de realizar en algunas facultades, pregunten, ¿no?, su titulación por actividades académicas en el extranjero que puede beneficiar a nuestra comunidad. Muchas gracias a todos. Si no hay alguna otra pregunta o comentario.
Yo nada más quisiera hacer un
Sí,
comentario
adelante.
nada más para concluir. Pues quisiera agradecerle muchísimo a usted, a todo su equipo, por la oportunidad, por el apoyo y por el acompañamiento durante todo este proyecto. No es solamente mío, como dije durante toda la exposición, no solamente lo realicé yo, sino más bien fue un trabajo en conjunto con el Centro de Estudios Mexicanos en el Reino Unido, la UNAM, y pues una servidora. Muchísimas gracias por todo. Un reconocimiento público de verdad que quiero hacer a todo el equipo, a usted por la gran líder que es, pero también a todo el equipo que está detrás de usted sacando la sede de la UNAM en el Reino Unido, el Centro de Estudios Mexicanos, avante todos los días.
Muchísimas gracias. Aplausos, aplausos hawaianos. Estamos felices de poder tener estudiantes tan brillantes como tú. Muchas gracias. Aplausos, ves por ahí aplausitos aparecer. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Perfecto. Bueno, pues estén pendientes de las actividades del Centro de Estudios Mexicanos que se publican en nuestras redes sociales, en Eventbrite. Estamos para servir a la comunidad universitaria y al público en general. Hasta luego, que tengan muy buen día, muy buena tarde.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.